can give a talk on Muhammad bin Abdullah, the Prophet without name.
Brothers and sisters, thank you for giving this opportunity again to present a talk to the fellow students at the University of Sydney. Talking about personalities is a difficult job if that personality is a multidimensional person. So that personality possesses different dimensions, and it makes it really hard to go through all the dimensions. And if the dimensions have different depth and width, it becomes really hard for the researcher to find them and discuss them. Obviously, it's easier for people like us who possess one dimension or two dimensions or three. It's easier to, let's say, study their heritage, their books, their ideas, and come up with what they have said. But Prophet is very hard. So I have divided my talk into three sections in order to convey that multidimensionality of Prophet. Obviously, we cannot do the justice. The first part, I'm going to talk about his unique upbringing. It may agree with some parts Abbas have talked, and it may disagree. The second part is how to know Islam and how to know Muhammad. And the third part is, after establishing these two introduction and these two principles, I want to talk about five major personalities of Prophet Muhammad. So in each section, I'm going to talk about 5 factors, so it's going to be 3 fives, hopefully 15 minutes. Okay, the unique upbringing. Sociologists and psychologists say that any person being born, their upbringing depends on 5 factors. The first 2 factors are the parents, so the father and the mother. The third is the society. Fourth is the universal spirit in which you live. I will explain that a little later. And fifth, the education you go through. Anyone disagrees with that? These 5 principles. We have lived it, so if you have anything to add or subtract. So we form the first axiom, okay, which is an experiential axiom. All right. So in the case of Prophet, we can see that when he was born, his father passed away. So he doesn't have that factor, that influence into his upbringing. Second, his mom was not able to breastfeed him, so he was taken out of that community and society to Halima, who was going to breastfeed him. At the age of 2, he was brought back to his mom, but the mom was sick. She had what's called ta'un or plague in English. So again, he was taken back to the desert, away from that community. Until age of 4 or 5, again he's brought back to his mom to go to Medina, because the Prophet from dad's side comes from Quraysh, Bani Abdul Manaf, from mom's side comes from Medina, Bani Najjar. So they were going to Medina to visit the uncles, and the mom passes away on the way to Medina. So we can see already the 2 factors are gone. He's not affected by them. The third factor, up until 5 and 6, he's in the desert. There is no relationship and contact with the society of the Arabic Peninsula. At the age of 5 and 6 or 7, when he's back and taken care of by his uncle, he's going as a shepherd to the outside the community. Again, either 0 or minimal contact with the community. Until he's a teenager, then as a person in charge of the caravan, he goes to Sham. According to narration, 2 times he goes. I think Brother Richard will cover that in details. So that's the third factor, no or minimal contact with his society. The societal norms have not deposited into Prophet Muhammad. All of us, regardless where we are born, the community and the society will deposit some trends, some personalities into us. If you come from an Arabic, Iraqi background, you have certain qualities. If you come from Iranian background, you have certain qualities. If you come from Indian background, you have certain qualities. If you come from Lebanese, you have different qualities. So And you cannot avoid it. You can minimize it, but you cannot avoid it. But you can see the divine hand in designing that person. Fourth, education. He was illiterate. Quran emphasizes that point more than anything else. Any quality, Quran puts it away and says he's illiterate. So he doesn't have education. And we can see how education, especially these days where there is no creativity and it's all about boundaries. So education is about boundaries, I think, these days. That's why you don't have creativity, you don't have innovation. I remember one of the international speakers came to Sydney and said that I'm worried because universities have clubs and alcohol and things like that. Actually, I'm not worried about that at all. I'm worried about how they are designing the mind of the students. Subconsciously, whether you're Muslim or not, they are designing our mind how to think, which is a different topic. Again, Prophet is devoid of that aspect. Fifth is the universal spirit. What that means. If you're born in 21st century, you have that spirit of modernity and technology. If you're born in 15th, 16th century, you have that hatred for church and that movement from scholasticism to scientism. If you're born in 10th century, you have that association with feudalism. If you're born in, I don't know, before the birth of Jesus, peace be upon him, you have that mind of being enslaved. You know, we are modern slaves in different form, a bit educated, but they are invisible hands enslaving us. That's a different topic. But the point is, he did not have contact with civilization. And there is a point in his geographical location. Peninsula, what does peninsula mean? Peninsula means you have 3 sides contact to sea and 1 side to land. So practically for civilization to come to this land was really hard. And historians say that this land did not have any civilization. Culture is different. There are 2 different terminologies. Culture and civilization, very different. So there was culture, Arabic culture at that time, but there was no civilization. There were 2 major civilizations. One was Persian civilization, and the other one was the Roman civilization, which Arabic Peninsula had minimum contact. Meccan started at that time to do business transactions, and some of them go, but again, Prophet had minimum contact to that civilization. So that was the first part that I wanted to mention. Prophet was, if we use the term, virgin in that respect of these 5 factors affecting his upbringing. So he was devoid of anything. And I think that provided a platform for the message to be given to him, for that purity. Whatever is given to us, we have so many barriers and boundaries before it gets to the root and the root of our soul. So but Prophet was devoid of all these 5 factors, or he had minimal contact with any of these factors. So that's the first part of my speech. And I think it was mentioned throughout the documentary how, I think one of the brothers mentioned, when he came to play with the kids at that time used to wear dishtashe. So they used to put the dishtashe up, obviously it shows the body, to put the rock in it. When Prophet came to do it, he tried to bring it up, but he didn't feel comfortable, so he didn't do it. But there are many examples which we don't have time to cover. Second part, how to know Islam and Prophet Muhammad. Before I go into that, I just want to mention one of the social and historical trends which was discovered and explained by the famous sociologist Dr. Ali Shariati. So if I work that trend, so let's say a society can be in 3 states. Okay, so let's call state of B equilibrium. If you've done chemistry, you know what equilibrium is. So that's when that society is in balance, is in equilibrium. A is when that society is into mysticism, isolation, into praying, so matter is not discussed anymore. And C is when that society into materialism, complete materialism, no attention to supernatural. Religions, that's the trend. Religions, whenever they came, they wanted to bring that society from one side to the state of equilibrium. But the same religion, when they bring the society to equilibrium, they become a deviating religion for that society. So if you know what I mean. Let me complete before you judge what I say. So let me give you some examples. When Prophet Jesus came to his society, it was Roman society. Roman, it was full of blood, swords. You know nothing except Caesar, Nero's, gladiators, all blood. So Jesus came about, brought the message of mercy, compassion, being compassionate to people. Even Bible says that if someone slaps you on one side, don't take the revenge. Because that society was in that vicious cycle of revenge, killing each other, one after each other. Give the other side for that guy to slap, because that's the way you can stop that vicious cycle. So we have Christianity came about to move the society from this side, which was the matter, killing. It's all about territories. So you have Rome, you have Spa in Greece, you have Iranian or Persian culture. So it was in that section. So Jesus was able to bring the society back to equilibrium, and all of a sudden the gladiators changed into what? Changed to Saint Paul, Saint Augustine. So, and the places for territories became the place of churches, and we have nuns and so on and so forth. But the same religion all of a sudden moved from equilibrium, because obviously as a believer you're not going to say that, okay, that's the time the religion is off. So it moved to section A, where it was the state of isolation. And the same Rome where Persia had difficulty to conquer, the same Rome was conquered by Arab people who didn't have even 2 horses to go. Why? Because they were in the state of isolation, praying, a mystical world, and no attention to nothing. There are many examples again to give. When Moses came to the society, again, even in the Quran, we can see Moses has that revolutionary action. He's a revengeful person, if that terminology is correct. And even the Quran says that when there was that discussion between that Qibti and Israeli, he went and bashed the guy, and the guy died. So you can see exactly opposite to Jesus, where Jesus was that merciful person. Moses is on the other side of the spectrum. Obviously, it's temporal and location dependent, but the point is what I want. It was that trend that I want to mention. You may disagree. That's in question and answers. Another example is in China. In China, we have 2 major scholars. One is Confucius. Confucius was promoting Li. Li means society, communities, rulership. And we had Lao Tzu. Lao Tzu was saying we need to go back to nature, mysticism. Again, on 2 opposite spectrums, because they came, if we call them the Eastern prophets, they came at different times to bring the society to equilibrium. Now, have this trend in mind. Okay. Now, Shariati, after presenting that trend, he says that to study a religion or ideology, we need to study 5 factors. One is the God of that religion. What God are they promoting? Second, the messenger. What are the characteristics of the messenger? Third, the book that messenger came about. Fourth, the students who were in direct contact with the teacher, who is the prophet, and they were educated and nourished by him. And fifth is the city he established. Okay, let's go through them, through these 5 factors, so we can understand Islam and what's the point of the Khatm al-Nubuwwah, the seal of prophets. There has to be meaning to it. Usually we don't understand it, but okay, first factor, the God. The God is Allah. When we read in the Bible, the God is Theos. Theos is the God of mercy. When we read in Torah, the God is Yahweh. Yahweh is the God of revenge. But when we go back to Islamic tradition, the God is the combination of Bible and Torah. So the God of mercy and the God, he's Dul Intiqam, he's revengeful, but at the same time he's merciful and compassionate. It's first one. Second, the book. We can see in Quran it's combining all the factors of matter and supernatural, matter and metaphysical. Obviously, I'm going through, you may disagree. Quran is not covering that. Quran is covering something else. We can discuss that. Third, the Prophet. The Prophet, when we look at the Prophet, we can see the two visages, two images. One is the image of Jesus, and one image is the image of Moses. The same Prophet who entered more than 65 wars in 10 years. If you do the calculation, so when he did migration to Medina, it was 10 years there, 65 wars. If you do the calculations, about every 50 days, he had to go to war. So you can see the face of Moses. But the same Prophet, when he's walking in the street and that Jewish guy throwing rubbish at him every day, and once he's not there, he says, "Where is our friend?" And they say he's sick. So he goes and pays a visit to him. The same Prophet who's on the battlefield every 50 days, the same Prophet in the community and with his wives and with the kids, he used to go and play with the kids. The same Prophet who's a statesman and politician, when he goes into the street, kids go up and climb on him. The same Prophet. So you can see the two images, the mercy and the revenge. Who are the students? Obviously we don't have time, but look at the Abu Dhar. Or even better, to understand Prophet, I think Imam Ali is the best example to understand the Prophet. You can see his soul is bleeding from one side, and from the other side, no one can comprehend this great man that he has to go to the palm trees and talk to a well, because no one can comprehend his chest and his understanding. And it is interesting that we have not understood Imam Ali because we don't have a book. If anyone asks us, give me a book, I want to understand this man. It's a question posed. What book would you give? What book? I want to know this character that you follow. Which book would you give me? No. I want a book to understand this man. It's been 1400 years. I want a book to understand this man. To understand Imam Ali?
Oh no, sorry, I thought you meant.
No.
Sorry.
You need to read about Imam Ali.
Yeah, because I'm talking about the fourth factor, the students. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's only one book, not written by a Muslim, not written by a Shia, by a Lebanese Christian person.
Yeah,
George Jordan. It's not sad because it's a Christian. It is sad because Muslims don't have anything. George Jordan wrote 5-volume books on Imam Ali alayhi salam, and then he was asked by the Muslim community to summarize it. No one's going to read 5 volumes. So he summarized it as the voice of human justice. It's been translated into English. Oh yeah, this is a different topic. And the city of Prophet. The city of Prophet is a combination of two cities, Rome and Athens, Sparta and Athens. Why? Benares, where Buddha came from, and Hekmatane, where the Iranian civilization was there. Why? Because from one side, these people go to the war every 50 days, but the same people are spending all their time in praying and fasting and donation, going to help the poor people. The best example is Ashab al-Saffa. Saffa, if you've been to Medina, unfortunately, whenever you go to Medina, you pay 8,000, but no one comes and explains the sites to you. It's very unfortunate. The grave of Prophet is here, and behind it is the house of Fatima, and behind that there is a Safa, means step. There is a raisin. People used to live there were Safa. They were the migrants. There was no place, so the people of Medina gave them that place to live. These people don't own anything. All they own is a soul. The same people used to go to the war, but the same people used to come back and study, discuss the intellect and that Abbas mentioned. So you can see the Athens where scholars like Plato came about, and Plato even didn't go to any war or anything like that, and wrote on his school that whoever wants to come to my school needs to know geometry, or Aristotle said that needs to know logic, separating social classes. You see that side in that city, and from another side you see the Buddha in that city as well. city of Medina. And that's why Prophet, in one sentence, how deep the lions of the day, so they were like lions during the day, but the same people were the pious people during the night. They say that we used to hear Imam Ali crying as if like a baby crying. That's again a different topic. So that's the second part of my speech. How to know Islam. This trend, pay attention to it, see what you think about it. Okay, now, I have these two principles. Now I want to go through some personalities of Prophet. 5 personalities. The first one is you have that absolute firmness, but at the same time you have that absolute humbleness. Usually for us to show a firmness and people to follow us, we need to be very tyrant. We need to give orders. We need to be very harsh. There is no softness to us. But the same Prophet was able to combine these two characters together, being firm and being humble. Once he was coming back from a war and people came outside the skirt of Medina to welcome them back. So he came off the horse, they again have horse, I'm going to mention he had a donkey. And he saw the farmers, they were hiding behind all the people. Look at the social class systems. Still is live in that mentality. So what he does, he pushes all the people away and goes to that farmer and tells him, why didn't you come to the farm? He said that other people are better than me. So, and then he handshakes with him and he sees his hand is very heavy. He says, what's wrong with your hand? He said, I'm a farmer, so all day I'm working on the farm. That's why my hand's like a rock. And Prophet takes his hand and kisses it. The same Prophet who said that kissing hand is forbidden, the same Prophet who said that kissing hand is creating that social class system, he has kissed 2 hands in his whole life. That farmer and the hand of his daughter. So you can see that firmness, but at the same time you can see that humbleness. The second, breaking all rules and bringing up new reforms. Reformation, that revolutionary nature, didn't care about anything. There are many examples, many examples. The first example is the way as a prophet, as a majesty, as a politician, but at the same time, the same prophet, when he was walking on the street and seeing people, poor people, sitting down and eating, he used to sit down with them and eat with them, not in a way we do just to take pictures. Like nowadays, people, there is war in Iraq, and some people just go and take a picture, they put on their website and do whatever. So we used to sit down and eat with them the way they were eating, and more than them, just to show them. And that's why Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says he was sitting the way a slave was sitting. That's why when people used to go to Mosque of Medina, they used to say, who is Prophet out of you? They couldn't distinguish. But in the social class system, there has to be a difference. And we live it every day. I'm educated, I have this education, so I need this title before me, I need to dress like this, I need to sit at the front, and so on and so forth. Another example is, when you have a social class, they have different characters. One character is the way they dress. At that time, if you go to China, the Chinese people or the Persian people used to dress long clothes, long skirts. But he says to his companions, cut your, unfortunately nowadays Wahhabis are using it just to cut it as a sunnah. But actually it came about to cut all these social class systems. Anyhow, the third character, he had power, although he was very weak. When the Meccan threw them out of Mecca and cut all the business transactions, they were in Shab Abi Talib for 3 years. For 3 years. But as soon as he gets out of that place and goes to Medina, even they don't have one horse to go to a war, what he does, writes a letter to King of Iran and Rome, inviting them to Islam.
It is very surprising. Usually we have a calculative mind. You do calculation. I do calculation before anything. I do calculations. If I'm weak, I'm not going to deal with someone like the Persian Empire. Yemen was in the hand of Iran, so they could have just sent a small army and destroy everything. But he had that power to be powerful, although he's weak in the outside. I don't have much time. I don't cover the other 2 points, but in these 3 sections, I just wanted to illustrate the multidimensionality of the life of Prophet, and not only that, give you some methodologies to study the life of Prophet and the Islamic tradition. Thank you for listening.